I'm still an alcoholic.
Stephen.
By the grace of God, I got to do another year in recovery. Got to get another milestone, I suppose, which at times in my recovery I didn't think was going to happen. Because I don't always work these programs to the best of my ability. I should, but I don't. I suppose that's the human nature. It's who I am. At times I'm lazy, at times I'm selfish, at times I'm obsessive, at times I think I've got this program waxed. I don't. I learn stuff every day about me, about recovery, about life, about my understanding, my perceptions on life. These shares are supposed to be what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. But yeah, I mean, the war stories are pretty much all the same. I think we've all got the same war stories, maybe different circumstances, different people, that type of thing. But the war stories are the same, so I'll just touch on them very briefly. I mean, I grew up in a normal family. Mom and dad, they were together until my dad died, married 43 years. All that. So there was nothing in my family that was out of the ordinary. No divorces, no fighting, no anything like that. Just a normal family. And I think from a very young age, I know I was hell of a rebellious. I was told don't do something, I did it because they said don't do it. And I could go through, all through school. I felt like I didn't belong, so I would go to extremes to belong. I could go into in high school. I was very into sport. I loved my sport. And in high school, I hung out with the sporty kids when it suited me. I hung out with I liked being with the rebellious ones, the ones who brought vodka and orange juice to school. And drank that during break time. All the goths and the metalheads were the ones I hung out with. Because they were different and I felt different. But I didn't even really fit in with them because I was a sporty kid. But I tried to fit in because I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to find somewhere to fit in. And I would always go to extremes. One of the things I did in high school, I don't know if anybody knows science, but I threw phosphorus in the fish tank to see what would happen. I mean, I knew what was going to happen. But I thought if I did something like that, I'd be the centre of attention. And I was, because I blew the fish tank up. But, and of course I got into trouble for that. In those days, I used to get caned. I got caned 6 and sent home from school. But I'd achieved my goal of being rebellious, being the centre of attention, because I needed that, because I was so insecure with who I was. I was, as I said, I played sport. I was a very good cricket player, very good hockey player. I was blessed with getting a contract to go and play cricket in England. And it was a 5-year contract, and after 2.5 years they cancelled my contract and sent me home. Because I went over there and I was getting paid a bucket load of money. All I did was drink, snort coke and party. That's all I did. And I managed to get through 2.5 years just on my own talent. I didn't go to practice, doing that stuff, because I was an alcoholic, so there was no drive to achieve anything. I was entitled. I've got this natural ability. I'm good. They will never do anything until they terminated my contract. One of the things I did, I turned up on the second day of the 4-day game. I missed the whole first day because I was out partying. And but of course I'm entitled. And all through this, my life was a mess, because all I did, every time I drank, something happened. And I got to the stage where I would drink I'd black out. I'd drink till I blacked out. And then, there'd be incidences like, I grew up in Scotland, and I can remember going to a party in Umkomaas and waking up in my car in the cane fields in Umhlanga. I don't know how I got there. I must have driven because I was in the driver's seat. I still to this day don't remember why I was there or what I was doing there. When I was in England, I got arrested, and I got arrested for writing my brother-in-law's car off and running from the scene of the accident. Don't remember it. I just remember waking up in the holding cells in Leamington Spa in England. So my consequences were always there. I came back from my contract in couldn't get a job. Well, couldn't hold down a job. I could get lots of jobs, but I couldn't hold down a job. I'd take clients for pub lunches at 11 o'clock and not go back to work. I would cook the books at work so I had more money, so that I could go out and drink more and use more drugs, because I ran out of money, and I had, at one stage I was really a good salary, and I could never make ends meet, because the more I had, the more I wanted. I was bouncing one credit card off the other just to try and make ends meet, and I was earning good salary. But I mean, that was the nature of the alcoholic that I was, and it got worse and worse and worse. I couldn't hold down relationships. I treated, one of my things that I had to deal with a lot in my step 5 was I treated women very badly. Very emotionally abusive. I used them a lot. Lying to them, manipulating to get what I wanted. One woman particularly was in my step 10, but she was in my men's list for a long time. And I only got a chance to make amends to her, I suppose, 10 years ago. So I've been in recovery 10 years before I got a chance to make amends to her. And I needed to, because I treated her really, really, really badly. Sequence of events of just constant chaos, car accidents, fights, as I say, losing my contract. I ended up at 33 years old living in my mom's home because I couldn't pay rent anywhere else. I had no more job. I'd been asked to leave my job. I wasn't fired, I was asked to leave, and I always used it, but I wasn't fired. But if I didn't leave, I would have been fired, and that was the truth. And all I did for a 6-month period was drink. And then one day, my family were very worried about me, and I was lucky because my sister had been in the fellowship for a couple of years already. She'd been in and out, but she knew about the fellowship. And she had a friend who had opened a rehab, the drag here. And this lady, she passed on a couple of years ago, a lovely, lovely lady. She was a friend of my sister's, and my sister invited her around for a cup of coffee. What they were trying to do was they were trying to 12-step me without me even knowing. And people had been before, and I just laughed at them. What I would do, just jump back a little bit. What I would do is every time there was a problem, and people called me out, I'd go to an AA meeting. And I'd sit there, and I wouldn't, it was just much older than me, and didn't like his hairstyle, didn't like what she was wearing. They're talking rubbish. You're talking rubbish. I know better than you. That was my attitude. I mean, never got anything from it. I was just there to get the family and the people off my back because I wasn't ready for this. Sequence of events. I ended up sleeping in my car in the main road in Scarborough, and a cop came and knocked on the door and said, "You can't park here. You've got to go home." I said, "I only live down the road." He said, "No, you don't. You live in Pennington. I know where you live." So the fact the cops knew where I lived said something to me. The cop got in their van. One cop drove my car and drove me home with me in the passenger seat. The cop van followed, and they took me to my mom's house. And when I knocked on the door opened, just that look on my mom's face. I'd seen it a million times, but just this particular time, something inside me said, "I can't do this anymore." And that's where we go. This lady coming around and having a cup of coffee and chatting about my life and who I was, and she was so open and so friendly and stuff. And the suggestion was that there's this new rehab that's opened, and don't I want to go in there because I'll turn my life around. I was like, "No, thanks, I'm fine." Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. That's what FINE stands for. And I wasn't fine. Anyway. Persuasion from the family and a bit of a chat and a bit of ideas. Well, okay, I'll go and see what it's about. And I went in there and I arrived, and there were 3 other people there, and they were friendly and they were open, and they started telling me about who they were. And wow, these were people just like me. These were people just like me. I didn't know what was wrong with me. All I wanted was the chaos to stop. The madness that was my life, I wanted it to stop. The constant having to phone people to find out Where was I? Who was I with? How did I crash my car? Where's my wallet? Where's my phone? How did I get a split lip? I just wanted that madness to stop. For me, it was about the damage control. Every time I went out and had a few drinks, something would happen, and I'd have to try and do damage control around it. And this lady told me that stuff would end. And I just wanted to end. So I went in there and I met these people and they said, right, this is what you got to do and you'll feel different. I did it. I just wanted to feel different and I did it. And I just kept doing what they told me to do. And they said, there's this book, read the book. I read the book. They said, these are the steps, you've got to work the steps. I said, fine, what do I have to do? Work the steps, did all my writing down. Step 4, they said, okay, you've got to follow step 4. I did that, I wrote down everything that I'd done, everything that I'd felt, and I'd said, all sorts of things. Step 5, you've got to share it. I said, if this is going to make me feel different, I'll do it. And I gave them the works, the whole bad shit, warts and all, exactly who I was, okay? And what I'd become, the person I'd become. I don't know if I felt happy afterwards or relief or anything. I just know that it was something I needed to do because there was an element of weight being lifted. Because the guy that I did it with, he had done exactly the same stuff as I had. He behaved in exactly the same way I had. He treated people in exactly the same way I had. And what I found out is that I wasn't a monster. I was a sick person with a disease, and now I was having my medication, and my medication was the 12-step program. I was very lucky to have had, and those of you who haven't, hopefully we carry the message to you, to have had a lot of interaction with the late Don T. And he taught me a lot. The most empathetic person I've ever met, and the least sympathetic. And I remember him telling me once that I want sympathy, I must phone Lifeline, which I thought was a bit harsh. He also told me to stop behaving like a 5-year-old, like a sport little brat. Stop doing it. And I was. There were times when I do that, when I do behave like a sport little 5-year-old. And Don would always call me on it. He sponsored me for 5 years, I think. And Don carried this message to me. For the first 8 years of recovery, I did exactly what was told. I came to meetings, I'd service positions. In those days, it was difficult because there weren't as many meetings as there are now. And I'd moved to Durban, so there were a few more in Durban. So I had some service positions in the Durban Fellowship, and I had friends, and I had sponsees, and I did what I needed to do. But I think in the first year, I got so arrogant in my recovery that because I believed I came from the best 12-step centre in the country, I could tell you when you were doing your recovery wrong. Of course, I learned lessons. I did that in meetings and people didn't like it. And my sponsor told me I had to go and apologise to all of them, which I didn't like. But I did it anyway because my sponsor suggested it, because I don't get it right all the time. And over the years I've learned. I mean, obviously, I evolved. My recovery evolved along with me as I learned that this is a way of life, and it's not something I can force on people. And I do my recovery my way, and people do theirs their way. And I have to respect that, and I've learned to do that over the years. First 8 years, I did what I needed to do, and then I think for me, recovery got too easy. When I say it got too easy, I knew I started a new business, and my business was doing all right. And I was in a relationship. My wife now, she was my girlfriend at the time, and I were living in a house in Freedom Park, doing well, and things were good. She had depression, which was a bit challenging, but nothing we couldn't get through. And I started, the first thing that came, what started to happen, I started to say, let's step 10, because everything was fine. So I didn't need to say the step 10 to my sponsor, I don't need to tell it. Everything is fine. So slowly but surely, I said, let's step 10s and let's step 10s. And then I work a long, hard day, and there'll be a meeting that night. So I won't go tonight, because I know if I don't go tonight, I won't relapse. I'm not going to meet if I don't go to a meeting. Because I still read my big book, and I still, I could justify it any way I liked, but I would always justify it. And slowly but surely, I didn't go to one meeting, didn't go to the next one, didn't go to the next one, and I was fine. I hadn't relapsed. I still had my business, I still had my relationship, and I was fine. And I justified, I'm okay. Now, you have to bear in mind, Don T lived 300 meters up the road from me. I never saw him for 2 years. Because I just wasn't doing anything recovery, didn't go and visit him. I never sensed the Thames. I never did anything like that. But I was fine. Until I wasn't. I started looking for things outside of myself to make me feel better. Because clearly I wasn't as fine as I thought I was. I went out and a young lady who I'd known for many years, I actually taught her. That's another thing I did. I went to teachers training college. Did 1 year there and then blew it, and that was another thing that I screwed up because I just didn't go to any lectures. But anyway, be that as I taught her doing contract teaching, and we ended up, she used to live up the road here in Kamas, and we ended up getting involved. A lot of lying, manipulating. I lied to her face many, many times to carry on what we were doing. It's a small town, I don't know how I thought I'd ever get away with anything. But my girlfriend found out about it. And everything fell apart. I lost my business, I lost my home. I lost my dignity, lost all the respect I had. She threw me out of the house, which I'm glad she did. I'm quite entitled to do that. And basically, I ended up on the pavement outside my house, in my car with one bag with clothes in it. That's what I had left. Because everything else I've lost. And as I say, Don lived 300 meters up the road from me. So I decided, okay, fine, I can't do this anymore. I knew, I'd learned over the years that drugs and alcohol were not the solution. They were not going to fix anything. So what did I do? I went out and I thought, what we'll do is I'll kill myself. I planned how I was going to do it. I was going to park my car on the railway line and wait for the train to come. And I thought that would be a pretty quick way to go, being that I'm a coward and all sorts of things. I don't want it to drag out. I want it to be pretty quick. But something, a little voice in my head said to me, the train's going to have a driver. That driver's going to have to deal with that for the rest of his life if you do that. And I think that's the only thing that stopped me. So instead of doing that, I went to Don's house. And I sat down on he invited me, I sat down on his couch crying like a little baby. He told me, stop crying, you did this to yourself. Which I thought was pretty unsympathetic. But it was the truth. I did it to myself. And we had a long, I was there for about 3 hours, thinking about where to now, the way forward. And he said to me, there's a meeting tonight. And go. And I said, okay, fine, I will. And I came back into the fellowship after probably 2 years of being sober. Well, let me rephrase that, 2 years of not drinking and not using drugs. I came back into the rooms. And I was welcomed back in the rooms with open arms. And I knew that minute I came back, I knew this is what I need to get back to doing. And I went back to basics. I did 1990. Back when I first got sober, we couldn't do 1990 because there weren't 90 meetings to get together. We couldn't do a meeting a day. There wasn't a meeting a day. When I first got sober, we started what I mean. We started this meeting. Myself, Keith, Caleb, and a couple of people started this meeting. We started the Thursday meeting at Park Wendy. The Thursday, we started the Thursday meeting down at the split base. Down at the last split used to be the time we started that. We started most of the meetings because it was only really up Kamas when I got sober, Kamas AA. But yeah, I came back in and I started doing this, got back to basics, did 90 and 90 again, and started doing recovery properly. My wife, which is now my wife, my girlfriend at the time, and I stayed apart for a year. Although we were living close together, she was in Scotland, and I was in Pennington. For a year, we stayed apart because that's what was suggested. And I used that time to do recovery again, to be like the newcomer and do my meetings, take service position, and slowly rebuild my life. And I did. I rebuilt my life. A year later, her and I got back together, and a couple of years later, we got married, and now we live a happy life together as a couple. With me doing this, learning the lessons that I had to learn in recovery. And I've got it, I was sharing with someone downstairs before the meeting started, saying, I've got it wrong probably more times in recovery than I've got it right. Because half the time I don't even know what the right thing to do is. All I know is that I make a decision based on what's in front of me, based on information I have, based on what I've gathered from my sponsor, from the people around me. I make a decision, and if it doesn't turn out as well as I'd hoped or as well as I thought it would, there's a bloody good lesson in there for me to share with other people, but also a lesson for me to do it differently the next time. Because I don't know what the right, I know the right thing to do from a moral and an ethical point of view. I'm not talking about that, I know that. The right thing to do in life with business and all that kind of stuff. I know what's right and I try and do what is right. But also what I've had to learn in recovery, when I first got sober, like I said, I was very arrogant, and for me in recovery it was black and white. You were either doing recovery or you weren't. It was either right or it was wrong. Over the years I've discovered how much grey there is between the right and the wrong. Because a lot of it is about my perceptions, how I perceive things. Perception is not reality, but it influences my reality. So all I can do now is keep doing what I was taught in early recovery and keep remembering the lessons. And it's quite amazing. I was talking before the meeting, how I can have I don't remember how I felt when I first came into the room. I know the theory behind it, I know my life was a mess. I know it was chaos and I wanted to change. I don't know the feelings. I don't remember them. So that's why having newcomers in the room and people in any recovery there, because it's still fresh in them and I can learn from them. That's what it was like. That is how you felt. And those are the fears that you had. Those are the hopes and dreams and ambitions that you had. And yesterday when I was thinking about what I was going to say today and how I was going to structure the share, it was interesting because I know how many people, since I came into the room, how many people are not around anymore. From our group, there were 4 of us. One is out there, he's going to die. The other one is dead. There's me, and then the other person is, I'm told, not drinking, but not doing this program. The person who came in after that died. The person who came in after that died. I counted over 30 people that I've spent my early recovery with that are not around anymore. And those are not people that have gone out and relapsed, those are people that are dead. The ones that have gone out and relapsed and thought they had another binge in, I don't know how many of them there are. Probably hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know. But I stopped counting at 30, and that was only the first couple of years that I was remembering back. So yeah, people die if they don't do this. And I'm sick and tired of people dying when they can live the most incredible life. And it's not a life of roses, not a bed of roses. It's not a bed of it's not easy. It's not a bed of roses, but it's an incredible life. And they choose not to. And for a long time, I didn't get close to people because a lot of those I got close to aren't here anymore. And I don't like it. I don't like how I felt. I didn't like how it made me feel. Using another one. This program's not working. It has to work for them. But I've learned over the years that I can't hold people down, put big books in a pillowcase and beat this program into them. It doesn't work that way. What I can do is share my experience and help other people. And yeah, I live the most incredible life. Sometimes a lot of challenges. I'm by nature selfish. So because I'm selfish by nature, being there for others doesn't come naturally to me. Being there for people I love and people I like, it's a lot easier. People I don't like, really, really hard to be there for those people. But I do. I'm there for them. I'm there for them because and that's the thing about this. I always use drugs and alcohol to feel good. I stopped feeling good when I used drugs and alcohol. Now, I feel good when I treat people well. It makes me feel good. And that's the selfish side of recovery coming out. I want to feel good, so therefore I want to treat people well because I want to feel good. I want to feel good about myself and the person that I am. So I do. I try and treat everybody with as much dignity and empathy as I can. And it doesn't matter what I'm thinking. Half the time I'm thinking, yeah, you arsehole. But I still help them anyway. I'm still there for them anyway because that is what I need to do. And when I get to the 99.9% of the time, they're not assholes. I'm the arsehole. They just being them. And what I've learned over the years as well is how my relation with my higher power has evolved, and it constantly evolves. My perception of the universe now, 20 years on, is very different to what it was like after a year, after 2 years, after 3 years, after 4 years. It really evolves. For me, it's as simple as it's love. That's all it is. The God of my understanding is love. Because that encompasses everything. It encompasses treating people well. It encompasses respect. It encompasses tolerance, acceptance, all those kind of things. And yeah, I try and carry that into life most of the time. Joe will know every now and again I have a couple of things I need to get off my chest. And my son and his partner are at our house at the moment. They're here from Cape Town. And still 20 years on, when I hear they're coming, my head goes, oh Jesus, the mess. I don't want to deal with the mess. Because they come and they bake and they mess up and they're constantly eating and there's plates and cups and knives and forks all over the place. And I'm a little bit OCD and animal retentive around that stuff. So like they will happily go to bed and leave a coffee mug on the coffee table in the lounge. I can't do it. I'll get out of bed and I get the coffee mug, wash it. But that's me. And that's the stuff that I've had to do. If I don't like it, I'll either say something to them, but to them it's irrelevant. Or I do it myself. One of the choices I've got. So now they leave this afternoon. So I've loved having them there because we get on very well and we have a lot of really, really cool conversations. And we've built a hell of a relationship. I've known my stepson since he was 6 years old. 7 years old, and he's 26 now, 27, so very much 20 years. We have a great relationship. But they're going today, and it's one of those things I loved having them here, and I'm glad when they go home. It's that sort of... and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to feel that way. So yeah, it's my recovery is a constant evolution, and it's still evolving. I don't know if I'm doing it right or doing it wrong. All I know is I feel good about life. I feel good about who I am. The only books I have, it's quite amazing, I read a lot. I read all sorts of books, from novels to history books to autobiographies, all sorts of things. The only 3 books that are next to my bed, and our permanent of our big book, my daily reflections, and the power of now. Are the 3 books that are next to my bed. They've become my reference books. I lie in bed and I just grab it when I've got something happening. I'll grab my big book and I'll read through it. There's the solution right there. And every time I doubt something, I don't know what the answer is. Here it is right there in the book. And it blows my mind to think that the 12 people who put that book together, it wasn't just Bull and Bob, there were 12 who put that book together. There was a group of 12, actually, a few more, put that book together. They had something like 20 years of sobriety between them all. And that blows my mind, because I couldn't put that book together now, and I've got 20 years. So it just blows my mind. That book had to be inspired by God. There's no other way. The book, as powerful as that, could have been put together without some kind of divine intervention. It's become my Bible. It lives next to my bed. Everything I need, every solution I need to everything in that book. I'll read about it and I'll talk about it to somebody and pick up, and it's amazing because every time I read it, I learn something else. It's like layers of it, layers upon layer upon layer. When I read something, okay, I'll perceive a passage differently to the way I perceived it yesterday, or 2 or 3 or 4 years before, whatever. I start perceiving differently. So it's incredible because for me it's evolving. The book evolves. As I evolve, so the book and my understanding of the book evolves. I'm quite blessed. I've got an amazing sponsor. I sponsor a couple of people in the fellowship, and the good thing is they've become my friends. I have a close relationship with them. I have a lot of people. I have a small group of people I've very close relationships with, and we share a lot. We share a lot about life, and we try and fix the world. And then I realized I'm actually not that powerful. I can barely fix myself, and I'm trying to fix the world, and that's okay, because I'll end off with something somebody told me, and it stuck with me. The difference between me and active alcoholism and me now is that old expression, monkey see, monkey do, and that was me in active alcoholism. I would just think about something and do it. Say, I want that. I buy it, or I drink it, or I eat it, or I snort it. Now it's monkey see, monkey play movie out, monkey do or do not. And that's what's happened in my life now, is I've learned to play it out. And I know when what I'm doing is offside. And I can't stop what I think. And I can tell you now, I can think some seriously dodgy shit. Seriously dodgy stuff. And you have to act on it anymore. I can't control what I think, I can control what I do with what I think. I can't control what I feel, I can decide what I do with what I feel. And that's where my action comes in. What I do with how I feel and what I do with what I think. See you all in the day. Thanks, guys.